Okay, at this part you have now made your folders and you have your images all ready to go. I'm going to open up my original that I created, and we're going to go through how to make this step by step. So I created 18 pages. I don't really need this last page. So we just need 17 pages. You cannot delete that very first page. There's always a starter single page because this um, InDesign is made to make books. So it has the front page, first page blank because I'm not going to have you build the format of a bound book. I'm going to just do spreads with you. So we're just going to ignore this number 1 page and work on 2, 3 through 16, 17. So these are all the pages we're actually going to use, and we're going to ignore this one. Because if I did delete this, it'll just bring the image up, which I don't want. Alright, so let's start your book. Oh, there was other thing I wanted to talk about is image. This is where your images are linked, under links. And it will tell you if it's missing or not. So when I first did this, I said you should move your labels and still life into your image folder. If I do that, it will show up missing in my file. So that's how easily, if you misplace your links or have it on your hard drive or your jump drive or somewhere else on a different computer, if you don't have it with you, it will show up as missing. So you need to make sure it's always linked. You do that by, if there's a question mark, you select it. There's commands below. This one is to link up to the cloud. This one is to link up to your desktop. This one is to show you where it is located in the file. This is to relink if you made a quick edit. And this will take you to where the original was created. So JPEGs doesn't really work for original, but if it was a Photoshop or Illustrator image, it would open up Photoshop or Illustrator for you to edit. So let's see where this M&M one is. It's telling us on page 8, and it brings us to one of the pages here. So that brought us to the page, and now I can relink it. And I know that I put it in the folder, and it's not in my links. Let's see if I put it in, I thought the images. So I found it here. It should have been in with my images. So I just want to relink it and make sure that I have both. So both of them have been found and connected. So that's very important, is images must be in one spot, in one location, so it can be found. Oh, there they are. So I put it back to the folder that it should belong in, and I have missing again. So I had to still relink it. So even a subtle move, you can change the place that it should be in. And always make sure you read the top line here to see what it is that you actually selected to relink. Alright, so that's the linking. It's very important. I'm glad we covered it multiple times. Make sure all your images are linked. When we package your file, it'll make it a lot easier to link. Can you see here it's a little blurry? It's starting to get a little pixelated. Now that could be that it actually is pixelated, or we can go under View, Display Mode, High Quality, and see if it changes. So these came sharper, but this one's blurry. So this is just a very lower res image. So you might want to bring it in a little if it is too small. Alright, so just make sure that some of these are not too detailed, that they're blurry. And go back to typical mode so that it doesn't get too blurred in your image. Alright, so that's just kind of talking about image, how to look at it on screen using display mode, and how to place image. Let's start making the file. So you go to, if you have it already open, you do new document. If you open up the file automatically, it will turn into, it'll allow you to create a new document automatically. So print, letter, inches, title it, your name, orientation, pages, we said 17. 17, I just hit 18. 17. Spacing is correct. Let's do 3 gutters. Margin, let's do 25. If this is linked, it should automatically go through all of them. Bleed will leave empty. Slugs we won't deal with. So it's just margins at 0.25. Make sure they're all the same. Columns 3. So that automatically changed back to 5. Columns 3. I thought I did 8. 17 pages. And that should be it. So let's hit create. So it's showing us just the grid. Remember that if you have it on the arrow selection, you can use the W back and forth to show how it would look during printing, and what it looks like while you're editing. So while you're editing, you can have access to the columns, and you'll see like the lines around the type, or where the boxes are that you place images. But when you go into W, unless it's select, you really don't see that. So you have to toggle back and forth from W to get to your guidelines and your print view. So this is if you go to pages, make sure you have all of these available. If you go to pages, which is that number 1, you can't delete it, so what we're going to do is we're just going to change this in and just remind us by calling it blank. Not black, blank. We don't want to put anything on here. We'll start actually the book on 2 and 3. Well, we'll do the same thing that I have set up here. I'm just going to cheat and copy what I already have. But I want you to actually consider and design the layout for this. So again, I'm going to hit W. This is what it looks like. This is how I designed it. I want you to consider the guidelines. And this is what it looks like when it's in print mode. So intro to graphics, you need to write, and the school name, not the word school name, but the actual school name, and the year. Alright, the next page I'm going to copy from my other template that I had. And you can do Command, Option, Shift, V, and it'll automatically place it exactly where it was before. And the first thing I want you to do is make a type box, put it back to W, make sure you're using the grid corner, and do monogram, your name, and the software. You'll be doing this title, name, and software for each one of your pages. So next, I'm going to use my rectangular frame tool, and I'm going to kind of pull it out to where I think I want it. And then if you can see, there's like a little X that kind of in the middle of the square, right where my pointer is, you can see it. So I want to get it kind of centered on the page. And this is where I'll put the image. So once I drag it out, get it centered on the page, I'm going to select it. I'm going to do File, Place. And then I'm going to make sure I know where all my stuff is. For you, it'll be in Images. And we're looking for the final. So you have 3 here, 4. So this was the one I think that was chosen. This is the one that was chosen, so I'll open that. And place that in the center. And then next to it, I'll create another box that kind of fills up the space even more to showcase a couple of the examples of different options. So I'll go to File, Place, and we'll go to maybe the first page. I kind of try to maneuver the image. So remember, when images are put in, they're put into the box. The box is always masking the image. And then I can resize the image. So I resize the image by going to the center, and you can see my hands there. This little double circle's there too. And if I click twice, it'll actually show you the image behind the box. And I can kind of just center it to my page. And then I'll come back to the box and I'll kind of crop out other images, just kind of keeping it at assortment of 9 different ideas. And then you can go back to, make sure you have the selection tool, go back to W, and you can see what it looks like if it was being printed. So I had a little bit of the image still coming through from one of the images that are in the layout. Maybe this needs to be a little more centered. Go back and forth and make sure that it's centered in the page, and then it may be centered with it. So that is for monograms. Next, let's go back. I already have this stuff set up, so I'm going to select the still life. So I selected it, just so you know the steps of copy and paste again, and then I did edit, copy, and then I'm doing paste in, which is edit, paste in. So paste in aligns it exactly at the same spot. So if I wanted to take this and paste this into each one of these at exactly the same spot, I could do that. I could do File, Copy, and then go to the next one and do File, Paste in, and it'll go exactly where the one above went. So I don't have to worry about kind of trying to edit everything to be exactly, it will hit the same place on the page for each page if I do the copy paste in place. So I'm going to go back to this one because I really just want to take this whole thing that I've designed already and do copy and then go back to my original. So this is what you're working on, and I'm doing File, Paste in place. So I'm going to delete all of these because I'm going to rebuild it with you guys. So this is what you could have had because you could have just copied it from here to here. And now we're going to paste in the still life. So the first thing we're going to do is use the rectangular frame. This will be the small image of the still life. This will be the still life that you drew. And then a full spread using the grid for the detail. So let's select it. Go to File. Go to Place. and we're on this, but you should have the image together, but I put mine back into my original folder. So mine's in links. So this might be a little confusing, but my still life's in here. But you should have it in with the images that you made from the PDF. Again, I just click the center of the image to be able to grab the orange line, which is the actual still life. Remember, it always comes in inside a frame. And I might need to make my frame a little bigger. And then I could just go right to the center and move it around when you see the hand pop out. Alright, so the next is placing. Do File, Place Again. And you would go back, you would be in just your images, and you would get your drawing. Open up your drawing. Let's place it. Undo when things happen that seem weird. So when I did that, it made everything the same. So the bounding box came out to the exact same size. And I don't want that. I want the image to get smaller and fall into the size of my frame box, not the other way around. File, place, and then I'm going to bring it in again because I want to show detail. So maybe just a little bit bigger, but not too big that it gets blurry. So I would go and check to see if it's going to be really blurry or not. Alright, so now you have the monogram, and then you'll change this to still life. You have those two done. You can copy this, bring it down here. Or actually, you could copy the whole thing because the M&M is going to be a small image. You're drawing, and then the larger detail. So you could copy the whole thing, do File, Edit, Copy, go to the next page, File, Paste. See how it's off? We don't want that. We want to do File, Paste in. Now it's all aligned. Alright, so you're going to change this to the label study, pen tool, your name. Make sure you have all this stuff filled out. Name, software, tool. All this should be filled out. Still life study, name, software, brush. Monogram, name, software. So now we're going to change these. You're just pulling it from this, copying and placing it to this. And now you can see in Pages that how we're just building the pages up, one after the next in a series. Now do File, Place, and we're going to go to the M&M. This is the M&M drawing, so I'm going to cancel it and put the M&M here. And then I'm going to put the M&M here. Again, make this as nice as you can. If you have to make it a little smaller so it doesn't get pixelated, do that. Bring the image in by double clicking in the center. And you can use the outline bounding box just to kind of tighten it up. And then here you should put in the M&M image. So now I need to go back because my M&M picture is in a different place. This is why it would be good to have all of them together. so that you don't have to be hunting down for images. So it would be nice if it was here, but it's not. It's actually in here. And then there's the actual label. So the actual label, your drawing, and then your detail. And if you want to write a note here saying label, drawing, and detail, feel free to add more copy. I want this to be a little smaller. Double check that you're not squishing any of your images by clicking on the original image and then checking up on the top. So this is a way of changing the size and scale also. But see how they're exactly the same? That's what it should be. It should not be that this is 20 and that one is 31. See how it's squished? You can always double check that you didn't somehow scale it wrong by making sure that both of these numbers are the same. Then you know that that is 100% at correct scale. See how this one is also? It's a lot of extra numbers, but it is approximately around 83. I'm just going to make it even. So making sure you're not squishing, place your images in correctly, think about the space, add more information if you would like. This is your portfolio. If you don't like my titles, make it clear, that's fine. Maybe this is an advertising label study. You can do that. And then this will be the last one I talk about. I know this is a long video, but it just takes some time to build these things. So I'm just going to go and beat this one. I'm going to only take this copy. And then I'm using the paste in. And I called this, I think still the label study. But maybe you do abstract label study. And then again, we're still using the framing because we're still using imagery. I'm going to pull this all the way to both sides. And then I'm going to use the, you can't see this, but I'm using the arrow panel on my keyboard. You can start seeing that it's breaking into 3 parts. So I want you to make sure that you can do that. So I would start to the middle of this panel and then the middle of this panel. So I'm going to select it. I'm still holding on to it. Still holding on to it. I've not unclicked yet. Kind of making sure both sides are even. Maybe up from the bottom a little. And then I'm going to use my arrow that's pointing to the right and click it 2 times. It's going to make 3 panels. So I'm all set to put in my posters. And I have all 3 posters available to place. So it's okay if your images don't fit into the space, adjust the space. Make it a little smaller so that all the images fit into the frames correctly. So I would start for this one and maybe double click to make sure I have the image. If you have to scoot back to see where it is when they're really big. So see how big that is? I might start with trying to just make this into 50%. Because I know it's so big. And then I can come back and drag it in. And then do it again for maybe 25. So be careful that you're grabbing the actual image. So we're getting closer. So let's just do 5 more. Oh, that was a lot. So let's see if this one is, let's start this one at 25 first. So make sure you're not on that frame, that you're actually on the image. So remember, I gotta click on it, and then let's see if I can just, if you click on this, it'll automatically do both height and width. Or not. Sometimes when it's over the pasteboard, it really doesn't like it, so it's probably best to just do Command Shift and drag the image as close as you can to the back to the board. So there's 2 different ways of doing it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And now that they're in there, you might find that this is a little long. So you can just grab the other direct tool, which you're used to in Illustrator, and you can just select the points on the bottom. Sometimes this works for me. And then I just arrow it up. And then maybe this is a little more square, so I can go back and kind of select my image, get it in there. But I want to do these all at the same because then it works out for my, I'm going to have to do it for all of them anyways, because they're all the same size. So, get that in there. So it looks like I still need to bring them in smaller. I'm going to fit it right to the edge. So it's tricky. You got to grab those images just right to get them to fit. Make sure you're always using Shift to rescale it so that you're not squishing the image. And then you can grab the edge of the bottom frame of the box and you can adjust it upwards using arrows to get it ever so correct. Again, just double check that you don't squish it by selecting the image and then looking up to make sure that the percentages aren't changed. So that should be fine. That's a little odd. So this should be 19 and this should be 19. Alright, so that's kind of there. And then remember, you can just hit W back and forth to see how it looks when it's printed. So there is the rest of your pieces all ready to go. So this is all of Illustrator. Remember when I did it, I showed you that you should have still life. So we'll paste that one over. So again, I copied from my older one and then I'm doing edit, paste in to this one. So this should be still life from Photoshop. And then this should be landscape from Photoshop. And then this last one should be the story from Photoshop. So feel free to go back and copy some of these layouts. You'll probably need this layout, so you would copy it, file, copy, and you can paste it right into the still life because it'll just be a little bit different for Photoshop. And then the cityscape would probably still be more like monogram because you would have your cityscape here and a detail on this side. So you could steal this if you wanted. So again, I copied and then I pasted in, but I'm using the key commands. But for the landscape, you might want to make sure you're completely centered, depending on how big that image was. to the frame. And then your detail on this side could be all the way big. You could do the whole page if you wanted to. However you want to create it for the cityscape, you can. And I would say for this, you definitely should just do the whole page. If it's a little bit smaller than the whole page, then just you could bring it in a little bit. Just use the grids to help support. Alright, so that's a wrap on your portfolio. Make sure you finish up all of your Photoshop, and we'll talk about some more things on the next few videos.